The Cosmic Algorithm. Dr. Ileana Reeves drummed her fingers against the edge of her workstation, staring at the error message flashing across her screen for the sixth time that morning. Outside her cramped laboratory window, the three moons of Nexus Station cast overlapping shadows across the sprawling research facility. The station housed over 2,000 researchers from 37 different species, all working on the cutting edge of galactic science. Ileana was one of only 12 humans. Recalibrating quantum differential equations, she muttered, ignoring the burning sensation in her eyes after 18 hours of nonstop work. Running simulation version 6.09. The door to her lab hissed open. Ambassador Thrix, a Saurian diplomat whose scaled skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, entered without bothering to announce himself. Two Centaurian guards flanked him, their 4 arms each carrying different weapons. "Dr. Reeves," Thrix said, his vertical pupils narrowing. "The Galactic Council is most displeased with your progress reports." Ileana didn't look up from her work. "Science doesn't operate on diplomatic timetables, Ambassador. 6 months of resources allocated to your project, and what have you produced? Theories, hypotheses, nothing tangible." Thrix's tail twitched in irritation. "The Arcturians have threatened to withdraw funding if there are no breakthrough results by the end of this cycle." "Then let them." Ileana finally turned to face him. "I've been assigned to decode the quantum architecture of an artifact older than your entire civilization. I'm not going to rush it just to please some impatient bureaucrats." Thrix's scales flushed deep crimson. "May I remind you that humanity only gained access to interstellar travel 70 years ago. Your species remains on probationary status in the Galactic Alliance. Such insolence could have consequences for Earth's standing." Before Ileana could respond, her simulation completed with a soft chime. She turned back to the screen, then froze, her eyes widening. "It worked," she whispered. "What was that?" Thrix leaned forward. "The simulation. It actually worked." Ileana's fingers flew across the holographic interface, confirming her results. "I've isolated a pattern in the artifact's quantum signatures. It's not random noise. It's a language." The artifact in question floated in a containment field at the center of her lab. A dodecahedron approximately 30 centimeters across, composed of an unknown metal that defied all conventional analysis. Discovered in the ruins of an extinct civilization on the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, it had resisted every attempt at interaction for decades. Until now. "Show me." Thrix moved closer, his earlier hostility momentarily forgotten. Ileana projected her findings onto the main display. "See these oscillation patterns? They're too ordered, too precise to be natural. Someone programmed this thing, and they did it at the quantum level. Can you determine its purpose?" "Not yet, but I can try to establish communication using similar quantum patterns." Ileana began configuring a response protocol, excitement building in her chest. After months of setbacks, she finally had something tangible. The artifact suddenly pulsed with soft blue light. It hadn't done that before. "Is it supposed to do that?" Thrix asked, taking an involuntary step backward. "I don't know." Ileana checked her readings. "It's responding to my test signals, but at a magnitude far beyond what I'm transmitting. It's almost as if..." The artifact rose slightly in its containment field, rotating slowly as lines of light traced complex patterns across its surface. The laboratory systems began to flicker. "Shut it down," Thrix ordered, panic edging into his voice. "I can't." Ileana tried every override command she knew, but the artifact continued its activation sequence. "It's operating independently of our systems." A beam of coherent light shot from the artifact to Ileana's forehead. She gasped, her body going rigid as information flooded directly into her mind. Not as data or images, but as pure understanding, concepts too complex for language unfolding within her consciousness. Just as suddenly, it stopped. The artifact settled back into its containment field, dormant once more. Ileana blinked, disoriented. I understand how it works now. Explain, Thrix demanded. It's an interface, a tool designed to access something much larger. Ileana's voice sounded distant even to her own ears. It was waiting for the right kind of mind to connect with. A human mind, Thrix said flatly. No, not specifically human. Ileana struggled to translate the concepts now residing in her brain. It needed a particular type of neural architecture, a certain way of thinking. And what does this artifact do, Dr. Reeves? Ileana hesitated. The information in her mind was overwhelming, potentially dangerous in the wrong hands. And something in Thrix's tone had shifted from diplomatic concern to predatory interest. It's a key, she said carefully. To what exactly? I'm still determining. Thrix studied her for a long moment. You will submit to a full neural scan immediately. The Galactic Council must be informed of this development. That won't be necessary, came a new voice from the doorway. Director Lyris Ven, the Altarian scientist who oversaw Nexus Station, entered the laboratory. Unlike most Altarians, whose translucent skin typically displayed calm blues and greens, Ven's epidermis pulsed with urgent reds and oranges. Ambassador Thrix, you've overstepped your authority. Dr. Reeves reports to me, not to the Council's diplomatic course. This is a matter of galactic security, Thrix hissed. Indeed it is, Ven agreed. Which is why I've already enacted containment protocols. This laboratory is now under Level 5 quarantine. No information leaves until we understand exactly what's happened. Thrix's scales darkened. The Council will hear about this obstruction. By all means, file your complaint through the proper channels. Ven gestured toward the door. Now, if you'll excuse us, I need to debrief Dr. Reeves privately. After Thrix and his guards reluctantly departed, Ven turned to Ileana, concern evident in his oscillating skin tones. Are you all right? The monitoring systems registered an enormous energy transfer. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Ileana rubbed her temples. It's like, imagine spending your life looking at the universe through a keyhole, and then suddenly the door swings open. What exactly did the artifact show you? Everything, Ileana whispered. It's called the Nexus Key. It was created by a species that called themselves the Architects. They seeded intelligent life throughout multiple galaxies as part of some grand experiment. Ven's skin paled to near translucence. The progenitors. They're not just a myth. No. And they built something called the cosmic algorithm, a vast network that spans galaxies. The artifact is an access point. Access to what? I'm not entirely sure yet, Ileana admitted. But whatever it is, the architects designed it to respond only to neural patterns that could think beyond conventional parameters. Patterns they specifically engineered into early hominids on Earth. Ven sank into a chair. You're saying humans were designed for this specific purpose? Not exactly. More like, we were allowed to develop without the constraints the architects placed on other species. They wanted to see what would happen if they let evolution take its natural course. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Ven's communicator buzzed with urgent messages. Director, a voice reported, we have 3 unidentified vessels approaching at high velocity. They're not responding to hails. Deploy defensive systems, Ven ordered. Initiate evacuation protocols. Ileana felt a chill run down her spine. They're coming for the artifact. For me. How could anyone know what just happened? Ven demanded. The artifact's activation sent a quantum signal. Anyone monitoring for architect technology would have detected it. Ileana began downloading her research to a portable drive. We need to move the artifact immediately. Where? There's a facility, Ileana said, the knowledge suddenly surfacing in her mind. Coordinates embedded in the artifact's code. It's where the cosmic algorithm is physically housed. The station shuddered as the first impacts hit its shields. Director Ven. Another voice called over the communication system. The vessels bear Valthori markings. Ven's skin went completely white. Impossible. The Valfori haven't been seen in this sector for millennia. Who are they? Ileana asked, securing the artifact in a portable containment unit. An ancient species, believed to be one of the first civilizations uplifted by the architects. They retreated to the galactic core thousands of years ago, becoming isolationists. If they're here, then this is bigger than we thought. Ileana finished. Another impact rocked the station, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed as systems began to fail. Director, the security chief reported, they've deployed boarding shuttles. And sir, we're also detecting Arcturian and Saurian warships entering the system. Thrix, Ven growled. He must have sent a message before I locked down communications. Ileana secured the containment unit to her utility belt. We need to leave. Now. The evacuation pods won't outrun those ships, Ven said. We don't need to outrun them. Ileana's fingers traced the surface of the containment unit. The artifact can protect us, but I need to understand more of its capabilities first. A section of wall exploded inward. Through the swirling debris stepped 3 Valfori, tall, slender beings with alabaster skin stretched over elongated limbs. Their eyes, wide and entirely black, fixed immediately on Ileana. Human, the foremost Valfori said, its voice resonating directly in Ileana's mind rather than through air. You have awakened the key. Stay back, Ven warned, positioning himself between Ileana and the intruders. This human is under the protection of Nexus Station and the Galactic Alliance. The Valfori tilted its head at an unnatural angle. The Alliance is a child's construction. We speak for the original covenant. Ileana stepped forward. You know about the architects, about what they built. We were their first children, the Valfori acknowledged. And we have waited long for the final piece. For you. Before anyone could respond, another explosion tore through the laboratory. Saurian troops poured in, led by Ambassador Thrix. Secure the human and the artifact. Thrix commanded. Kill the others if necessary. Chaos erupted as the Valfori moved with impossible speed, their limbs elongating and hardening into weapon-like appendages. Director Ven shoved Ileana toward an emergency exit. Run, he shouted. Find the facility. Complete what the architects started. Ileana hesitated for only a moment before darting through the exit. Behind her, energy weapons discharged and alien voices raised in combat. The station's corridors were filled with panicked researchers of various species, all rushing toward evacuation points. As she ran, Ileana felt the artifact grow warm against her side. Knowledge continued to unfold in her mind. Star charts, coordinates, protocols. The cosmic algorithm wasn't just a technological achievement. It was a fundamental rewriting of universal constants, a way to alter reality itself. And somehow, against all odds, humanity held the key to its activation. Ileana reached the shuttle bay just as another explosion rocked the station. Through viewport windows, she could see more ships arriving. Arcturian battlecruisers, Centaurian raiders, vessels of species she couldn't even identify. All for a human and a metal box, she muttered, slipping into a single occupant evacuation pod. As the pod ejected from the disintegrating station, Ileana clutched the artifact close. The star map in her mind pointed toward the galactic core, toward a place the architects had hidden from the civilizations they had seeded. Behind her, Nexus Station erupted in a final, catastrophic explosion as its power core breached. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and perhaps the destiny her entire species had been unconsciously evolving toward for millions of years. Ileana Reeves, human quantum programmer, had never felt more alone or more determined. The universal cipher. Ileana's escape pod tumbled through the void, its primitive stealth systems barely concealing her from the armada now converging on Nexus Station's wreckage. Through the viewport, she watched alien vessels methodically scanning the debris field. They were hunting for her. Navigation systems failing. The pod's AI announced in its infuriatingly calm voice, Life support at 67% capacity. Recommend immediate course correction to nearest habitable system. Override. Ileana commanded, plugging coordinates directly into the navigation console. New destination. The AI hesitated, its processing lights flickering. Warning. Specified coordinates lead to restricted sector. Galactic Alliance protocols forbid. Emergency authorization. Reeves 9 to 7 Delta. Ileana interrupted, using the override code that Director Venn had given her moments before their separation. Accept coordinates and execute immediately. As the pod changed course, Ileana removed the artifact from its containment unit. It pulsed with a soft blue light, responding to her touch in ways it never had during months of laboratory testing. The knowledge it had transferred to her mind continued to expand, unfurling like a vast cosmic map. The Jericho threshold, she whispered, the name suddenly appearing in her consciousness. That's where we need to go. A proximity alert screeched through the pod's cramped interior. On the scanner, a sleek vessel approached at impossible speed, its design unlike anything in Alliance records. Valfori, Ileana realized. They had tracked her somehow. The pod shuddered as a tractor beam locked onto it. Ileana clutched the artifact tighter, wondering if she should jettison it into space rather than let it fall into alien hands. But something told her the artifact was meant for her, that without her neural pattern to interpret its information, it was merely an inert lump of exotic metal. With a final, violent jolt, the pod was drawn into a cavernous hangar. The artificial gravity fluctuated as the pod settled onto the deck. Ileana considered her options. She was unarmed, unfamiliar with Valfori physiology, and had nowhere to run. The pod's hatch disengaged with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Standing outside were 3 Valfori, identical to those who had boarded Nexus Station. Behind them stood a shorter figure in an environment suit, distinctly non-Valfori, its 4 arms marking it as Centaurian. Dr. Reeves, the Centaurian called, voice distorted through an atmospheric filter. Please exit the pod. I assure you we mean no harm. Forgive me if I find that hard to believe, Ileana replied, remaining seated. Considering you just blew up a research station. A regrettable necessity. The Saurians would have seized the artifact, and you with it. The Centaurian stepped forward, removing its helmet to reveal features that Ileana recognized. Professor Kurnax. Ileana couldn't hide her surprise. You're working with the Valfori. Kurnax had been one of the most respected quantum physicists in the Alliance before his mysterious disappearance 3 years earlier. His theories on interdimensional mathematics had directly influenced Ileana's own research. Working for, such distinctions become meaningless when facing extinction. Kurnax gestured toward the open hatch. Please, Dr. Reeves. Time grows short, and we have much to discuss. Reluctantly, Ileana exited the pod, keeping the artifact close. The Valfori observed her with their unsettling black eyes, but made no move to take the artifact. This way, Kurnax said, leading her through corridors of pale, luminescent material that seemed almost organic in its construction. The Archon wishes to speak with you. The Archon, the eldest of the Valfori, one who actually remembers the architects. Ileana stopped short. That's impossible. The architects vanished millions of years ago. The Valfori lifetime is not measured in standards you would comprehend, Kurnax explained. The Archon has existed since before your species walked upright. They entered a vast chamber whose walls displayed real-time views of space around them, stars streaking past as the ship traveled at speeds Ileana thought impossible. At the chamber's center floated a Valfori unlike the others. Where they were tall and slender, this being was massive, its alabaster skin translucent enough to reveal complex circulatory and neural systems beneath. It had no visible eyes, yet Ileana felt its awareness fix upon her with breathtaking intensity. The vessel arrives. The Archon's voice resonated directly in Ileana's mind, vibrating through her bones. Bearing the key to our salvation, or our undoing. I don't understand what you want from me, Ileana said. Understanding is precisely what we require, the Archon replied. Schoberg, Kirnax. The Centaurian activated a holographic display. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with a wave of energy, visible as a crimson tide, advancing from the outer rim toward the core. What am I looking at? The end, Kirnax said simply. A wave of altered physics propagating across the universe. Where it passes, the fundamental constants that make our form of life possible change. Stars go cold. Planets lose their magnetic fields. Organic matter breaks down at the molecular level. How is this possible? The universe is older than your scientists believe, the Archon explained. And we are not the first universe to exist. The architects understood this. They came from a reality that was dying, the previous universe, and built mechanisms to ensure the next iteration would survive what they could not. Ileana's mind reeled. And this wave, this is what destroyed their universe. Yes, they called it the unmaking. It is a natural consequence of universal entropy reaching critical threshold. The architects managed to escape to our reality, bringing with them the knowledge to create the cosmic algorithm. Which does what exactly? It rewrites the fundamental constants of reality itself, Kirnax answered, creating a pocket of stability where life can continue even as the larger universe transforms around it. Ileana looked down at the artifact in her hands. And this is the key to activating it. 1 of 12, the Archon confirmed, scattered across the galaxies, waiting for minds capable of understanding their purpose. You are the first we have found. Why humans? Why not the Valfori or another advanced species? The architects design most intelligent species with specific limitations, specializations that made them excellent at certain cognitive functions, but restricted in others. The Valfori excel at temporal perception, but struggle with metaphor. The Arcturians possess perfect mathematical reasoning, but lack intuitive leaps. And humans were an experiment, Kirnax interjected. A species allowed to evolve naturally, without the cognitive constraints placed on others. Your neural architecture is messy, inefficient, but capable of connections other species cannot make. The ship suddenly lurched, alarms blaring throughout the chamber. Arcturians, announced one of the Valfori. They tracked us through subspace, multiple vessels converging. How long until we reach the Jericho threshold? The Archon demanded. 3 standard hours, but we cannot outrun an Arcturian battle fleet for that long. The Archon turned its eyeless face toward Ileana. The artifact. You must connect with it fully now, access the knowledge we need. I don't know how, Ileana admitted. Your conscious mind does not, but your neural pathways do. The Archon extended a long, pale finger toward the artifact. The architects built redundancies into their design. The key responds to intention as much as to specific actions. Ileana hesitated. And if I refuse? If I don't trust you? Then we all perish, the Archon said simply. Not today, perhaps. But when the unmaking reaches this galaxy, everything ends. No survivors, no future. Another impact rocked the ship. Damage reports flooded the holographic displays. We cannot withstand their firepower for long, Kirnax warned. Ileana took a deep breath and focused on the artifact, which had begun pulsing more rapidly in her hands. She thought about connection, about interfaces between systems, about bridging the gap between her mind and the ancient technology. The artifact responded, projecting a beam of light directly into her consciousness. This time, she was prepared for the information flood. Rather than fighting it, she allowed the knowledge to integrate with her own understanding. Star charts, mathematical equations, quantum architectures, and coordinates, precise locations where the other 11 keys waited. The connection broke as another hit rocked the ship, sending Ileana sprawling across the deck. Warning lights flashed throughout the chamber. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 12, a Valfori reported. Weapons systems offline. I know where we need to go, Ileana announced, pulling herself to her feet. And it's not the Jericho threshold. That's just where the architects stored the schematics. The actual cosmic algorithm is housed at a location called the Nexus Point. Where? Nax demanded. The Galactic Center. Inside the supermassive black hole. Silence fell across the chamber. Impossible, one of the Valfori finally said. Nothing survives within a black hole's event horizon. Nothing within our current understanding of physics, Ileana corrected. But the architects operated beyond those limitations. They used the black hole as both power source and shield, the perfect place to hide their most important creation. Even if true, Nax said, we cannot reach the galactic core in this vessel. Not with Arcturian warships in pursuit. We don't need to. Ileana held up the artifact. The keys aren't just for accessing the algorithm. They're transporters. Quantum entanglement on a scale we can't comprehend. The ship rocked with its most violent impact yet. Sections of the viewing wall went dark as systems failed. They've launched boarding parties, a Valfori announced. Estimated breach in 5 minutes. If we transport directly to the Nexus Point, Nax warned, we'll need the other keys to activate the algorithm. We don't have time to find them all. We don't need to, Ileana insisted. The keys are already there. Understanding dawned on the Centaurian's face. Of course. Temporal displacement. Exactly. The architects existed partially outside our timeline. They knew when and where each key would be found, and who would find it. They've already accounted for this moment. The Archon floated forward. You are certain. As certain as I can be with alien knowledge crammed into my human brain, Ileana replied. But I trust the logic. The architects wouldn't have designed a system requiring 12 separate components to be physically brought together if they knew the unmaking was coming. They would have created redundancies. Metallic clangs echoed through the ship as magnetic grapples attached to the hull. Time had run out. Very well, the Archon decided. Initiate the transport sequence, Dr. Reeves. Save what can be saved. Ileana focused on the artifact once more, thinking of the Nexus Point coordinates now embedded in her memory. The artifact began to vibrate, its surface flowing like liquid metal as it reconfigured itself. Lines of blue light spread from it, enveloping Ileana, the Archon, Nax, and the other Valfori, just as the chamber doors exploded inward, admitting a squad of Arcturian soldiers. The transport activated. Reality dissolved around them in a cascade of quantum possibilities. Ileana experienced the journey as a series of fragmented perceptions, the bending of space-time, the impossible mathematics of traversing the event horizon of a black hole, the sensation of existing in multiple states simultaneously. Then, with jarring suddenness, solidity returned. They stood in a vast chamber that defied Euclidean geometry, its walls curving in directions that shouldn't be possible. At the chamber's center floated a structure of interlocking dodecahedrons, 11 artifacts identical to the one Ileana held, arranged in a three-dimensional pattern around a central void. The Nexus Point, the Archon whispered, its mental voice filled with reverence. The heart of the cosmic algorithm. Ileana approached the floating structure. As she drew near, her artifact pulled free from her grasp, flying to take its position in the only empty space in the pattern. The 12 keys connected, lines of energy flowing between them as they began to rotate. What happens now? Nax asked. Before Ileana could respond, reality shifted again. The chamber expanded, revealing they were inside a much larger structure. A space that somehow existed both within and beyond the black hole's event horizon. And they were not alone. 11 beings of various species stood at equidistant points around the chamber, some humanoid, others utterly alien. Each had arrived with their own key, transported from different points in space and time. The chosen vessels, the Archon said, just as the prophecies foretold. One of the beings stepped forward, a reptilian creature with feathered crests. I am Sekthar of the Draconis cluster. I bear the fifth key. Newelin of the Cepheus Void, announced another, a being composed of what appeared to be living crystal, bearer of the ninth key. One by one, they introduced themselves. Representatives of species Ileana had never heard of, from regions of space humanity had never explored. Some appeared to be from the distant past, others seemingly from the future. All had been chosen by the architects to bear a key to the cosmic algorithm. The architects understood that no single species possessed the neural architecture to activate the algorithm alone. The Archon explained, "It requires 12 different perspectives, 12 different ways of processing reality." In the center of the chamber, the rotating keys had formed a miniature galaxy, their energies combining and amplifying. A holographic interface materialized before Ileana, mathematical equations and symbols she somehow understood despite their complexity. "The algorithm awaits," Kirnak said, "but it requires a consensus. All 12 bearers must choose to activate it." "And what exactly are we activating?" asked Newlin, the crystalline being. "What will the algorithm do?" Ileana stepped forward. "It will create a pocket universe, a reality within reality where the laws of physics remain stable, even as the unmaking approaches, a sanctuary for all sentient life." "At what cost?" demanded Sekthar. The architects were not known for their benevolence. "The cost is change," the Archon answered. "The universe as we know it will end. What emerges will be different. Not better or worse, simply the next iteration. But within that new cosmos, our pocket of preserved reality will exist as a seed, a foundation for new life, new civilizations." A silence fell over the chamber as the 12 bearers contemplated this information. Ileana felt the weight of the decision, not just for humanity, but for all intelligent life in the galaxy. "The unmaking is already here," she finally said. "Look." The chamber walls became transparent, revealing the space beyond the black hole. The crimson tide they had seen in the hologram was now visible with the naked eye, a wave of altered physics consuming everything in its path, closer than anyone had predicted. "We have no choice," Ileana continued. "We activate the algorithm, or we perish with the old universe." "Perhaps ending is the natural order," Sekthar suggested. "Perhaps we should not resist it." "Life always resists ending," Ileana countered. "That's what makes it life. The architects didn't give us this technology to surrender. They gave it to us to survive, to carry forward what matters most." "And what is that, human?" asked Newlin. "Consciousness, awareness, the universe experiencing itself through living beings. If we allow that light to be extinguished, then everything, all history, all achievement, all potential, vanishes as if it never existed." One by one, the bearers stepped toward the central interface, placing their hands, or equivalent appendages, upon it in a gesture of agreement. Ileana was the last to approach. "For Earth," she said softly. "For every world that has ever harbored life. For the future." She placed her hand on the interface. Energy surged through the chamber, the 12 keys spinning faster until they became a blur of light. The very fabric of reality began to bend and fold around them. Through the transparent walls, Ileana watched as the unmaking reached the black hole, only to flow around it, unable to penetrate the shell of altered physics now protecting the nexus point. Within this bubble of preserved reality, the fundamental constants remained unchanged. "It's working," Kirnax breathed in amazement. The chamber began to expand exponentially, the boundaries between inside and outside blurring. Ileana felt her consciousness stretching, connecting with the other bearers across space and time. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice echoing strangely in the transforming space. "Now," the Archon replied, "we rebuild. The algorithm will preserve this pocket of reality and everything within its sphere of influence, thousands of star systems, millions of worlds. As the old universe ends and the new one begins, we will be the bridge between them." The 12 keys had now merged into a single point of blinding light, a cosmic sea from which a new reality would grow. And the architects? Ileana asked. Were they truly benevolent, or did they have their own agenda? They were survivors, the Archon said simply. Like us, they did what they could with the knowledge they had. Now it is our turn to shape what comes next. Around them, stars were being drawn into the protective bubble. Entire solar systems transported through quantum tunnels into the sanctuary created by the algorithm. Earth would be among them, Ileana knew, preserved along with thousands of other inhabited worlds. The great work begins, announced Sekthar, as the bearers' consciousnesses continued to merge with the algorithm itself. Ileana felt her sense of self-expanding beyond human limitations, becoming part of something vast and eternal. The universe was ending, yes, but also beginning anew. And humanity, the experiment the architects had left to develop without constraints, would help guide what came next. In her final moments of individual awareness, Ileana Reeves, human quantum programmer, bearer of the first key, understood at last why the architects had chosen her species, not because humans were special or superior, but because they were adaptable. Because they could imagine possibilities beyond the constraints of what already existed. Because sometimes the universe needed dreamers as much as it needed builders. As the old cosmos faded into memory, and the new one took shape around them, Ileana surrendered to the transformation, becoming part of the living bridge between what was and what would be.